Hi, everyone. My name is Eric Marks. I'm on the MPSC Board of Directors. Firstly, a few MPSC announcements. The 69th Annual Golden Reel Awards were held on March 13th. Congratulations to all the winners for this year. For those who attended, we hope you enjoyed this virtual event, including our cocktail hour and after party. To see details about all the winners, a few video highlights, and even some photos, you can head to mpsc.org. At our MPSC store, you'll find lots of gear to get you fully equipped for the summer in our Summer Waves collection. There you'll find unique goodies to help show off your MPSC pride, including tote bags, water bottles, tank tops, shirts, hats, and a wide variety of accessories. Head to mpsc.org/store to find what suits your style best. And the spring edition of our magazine, MPSC Wavelength, is in members' mailboxes and is also viewable online. There's lots of great content in this issue, so I'd highly recommend checking it out. We have a very exciting event for you this evening. So without further ado, I'd like to kick off tonight's event by handing things over to your host for the evening, MPSC board member Perry Lamarca. Perry, please take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up tonight. I think we're expecting a pretty large crowd, so it's going to be a lot of fun. Just a couple housekeeping tips. Please, we plan to have a pretty in-depth question and answer period after our discussion. And so if you could please either put your questions in the comments on Facebook live stream or in the Zoom chat, we will get to them as we get towards the end of the presentation. Also, please mute your mics, as would be normal kind of stuff. Anyway, I don't know anyone that's in this business that doesn't kind of dream about working, in the perfect studio, someplace that they can call their own. It's a comfortable space. It's a perfectly tuned room. It's got the right equipment that's hidden away somewhere that doesn't make noise. It's got the perfect chair and maybe even the perfect coffee machine. And so Fred Paragano, one of our two guests tonight, is soon to have all of this. He's worked closely with Russ Berger of the Russ Berger Design Group in terms of basically manifesting a truly inspiring and state-of-the-art home mixing studio. So Fred's credits include The Resident, Westworld, Australia, and Missing Link, to name a few. For his work on Westworld, he was nominated for 2 Emmys and also for a Golden Reel Award. And then in terms of Russ Berger is the head of Russ Berger Design Group. It's based out of Texas. He is an architect, acoustician, and his projects include the NPR, National Public Radio headquarters, Whitney Houston former studio, the NFL film headquarters, Sony Music Studios, Master Mix, and formerly Fred Paragon's former studio in Nashville, Tennessee, that he just recently sold. And I was going to very quickly show you a couple of pictures before we. So here is Fred's old studio that Russ designed and built. So Fred's studio in Nashville was this. Fred, how many musicians would this hold?
Probably about 35.
Okay, nice size room.
Yeah, for like an orchestra session.
Yeah. And you recently sold it to somebody else who's going to continue to use it as the same kind of facility, correct?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Excellent. So that's Fred's former studio, and then we're going to have a look at Fred's current studio. Also, just to get back to Russ for a second, he's the winner of 8 Tech Awards for creativity in acoustics and studio design, and also the 2007 recipient of the Heiser Award. And so, Russ, I was going to ask you very quickly to just maybe say a little bit more about yourself and talk about what the Heiser Award is, perhaps.
Oh, well, I'm sure all of you locals there know of the Jet Propulsion Lab. There was a guy there named Dick Heiser who was a troubleshooter there. He was just absolutely brilliant man and an audiophile. And he's the one who developed time delay spectrometry. He had this burning desire to be able to make anechoic measurements in a reverberant space. The problem in small spaces is all the local reacting surfaces are so close to the mic that everything all gets mixed together. So he wanted to figure a way to be able to make these measurements, and he developed time delay spectrometry. It's basically gated measurements, and it led to all our modern measurement techniques. I guess I was the third person licensed to be able to do the measurements from the JPL. At the time, back in the late 70s, when I purchased all the gear to put this together, it was about 40 grand worth of gear. And in the late 70s, that was a significant investment. I owned a recording studio at the time too, was designing studios then. And this really pretty much stood all of acoustics on its ear to be able to do gated measurements. So anyway, there was an annual award that was given for people that had an impact on our industry. So acoustics primarily. So.
Great. And Russ, you're also a musician, correct?
No, I was a drummer.
Okay, well, that's definitely a musician. That's like saying
No,
singers. Some singers are not musicians.
Yeah.
Most of them are. So,
I'm not current, but I can think it, but I can't do it anymore.
there you go. Well, anyway, so that's fabulous, and I'm so happy you could join us tonight, remote
Please
from
do.
you're in Houston or
Dallas, actually.
Dallas. Okay, perfect. So anyway, I would like to just we're going to move on to the technical stuff pretty quickly here, but I just wanted to just do a quick little question. Is like, how did you and Fred come to know each other, and what is the origin of your? I guess this is your second collaboration.
Well, Fred graduated from Berkeley and had a strong desire to be able to build his own facility, moved to Nashville, and there was a lot of facilities in Nashville at the time, tremendous creative talent there in the musician community, and he found his way in the record community, and they're doing editing and other things and recording, and he determined to build a studio of this, and he found us, we found each other, and we worked together to build a 20,000 square foot facility that I guess was about 8,000 of it was recording, and the recording studios itself, 3 main rooms in there, and the rest of it was leveraged to use as expansion space for other light businesses and other things. So, and it's a place I'm very, very proud of. It turned out wonderfully.
I knew about Russ for quite some time. I had worked at Sony Music Studios in New York, so I had known his work. So when it came time to do this, he was the first call.
Excellent. And so you built the studio over how long did it take?
Well,
Wow.
a typical process design for a studio that size is usually about 6 months, and construction was about a year and a half.
Okay.
Because this was a brand new ground up structure. So we had to do site work, shell building, and there's a lot of back and forth. While everybody has a tight budget, and so you're always trying to find clever ways of achieving their goals without just throwing money at it.
Mhm.
It's a bad way to do it. So anyway,
Yeah. I think they
turned out real well.
estimated, and I think they estimated a 7-month build, and it went well over a year.
So they usually double everything, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I again, I think it's absolutely beautiful, and I think it's probably, my guess is bringing someone like Russ in early on, Fred, is money saved in the long run, and definitely time saved just to get it right the first time, and
For sure.
And then you spent how long in Nashville, Fred?
11 years.
Wow. And what kind of work were you doing then?
It was all mostly music, albums and stuff, and towards we were doing a little bit of post, but that's kind of where I really like to be, and so ultimately I had to make the move here because it was just limited there.
Yeah, it seems like Nashville's now starting to get into more post, especially in the video game side of things.
They're doing a lot of film scoring out there.
Yeah, it almost seems like, just looking at pictures, like that room would be perfect for some of that kind of work because it's large enough. And I've heard stories of them trying to develop a stage that would be big enough for an orchestra down the road, but it's been put on hold. Or
I've been hearing about this for a long time.
Yeah.
So we come forward in the future, or 14 months forward, I guess, and you have relocated to Los Angeles, and you are in the frame of mind to build a new studio.
Yeah, I've been here actually 10 years now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, so it's been some time.
Yeah. So how did this project then originate? And I'm just kind of curious to know how you, what's the kind of evolution of it, basically?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it started with the whole COVID thing. My wife and I got married, or were going to get married, and then COVID happened, and we had to, scale it all back. It went from 200 people down to 5. But we bought this home and figured, well, we're now working from home. So she put her business in the home. And then I decided, well, maybe I'll do a room here. And so, of course, called Russ. And this little tiny room that I was thinking about doing kind of evolved. So, and when you work with Russ, it's great because he hears what you want. You talk about what you want, and he starts designing and laying some stuff out, giving options and whatever. And so it kind of grew. I don't know that I expected to go this elaborate with it, but of course, Russ is showing me all the renderings and stuff, and it's like I can't not do that now. So
yeah,
kind of what happened in Nashville
too.
Those first conversations are critical, that programming aspect. And again, usually people, when they want to build something in their home, they have a room, they want to put it in this room, it's in the middle of the house, and now you're dragging people, potential clients, or maybe, it's just one client and they're friends, but then they bring somebody else, and all of a sudden they're walking through the middle of your house. And I'm always a big fan of having something where you have an exterior entrance, you have a bathroom facility, a place to get, a little pantry area, and then your workspace where it can be closed off from the house. Usually when people want to do that, I ask them, well, so are you married? And they go, yes. Well, how long do you want to stay married?
Yeah. So all of that's fine until you get married, and then you think differently. So,
but well, and people wandering around your house, it's not good.
Yeah, and it's really funny because there was one particular room in the house here that I really had my heart set on going into that space. And Russ, in the beginning, he was like, no, it really should be up here, but whatever you want. And we started designing it. We started designing in the other space, and then I realized Russ was right, and so we moved it to the other space. But and it's working out great, and it is separate from the house, and separate entrance and everything. We put a new door on everything so I can take people through the side and nobody has to come through the home.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And then you're still close enough to walk down a hallway and see your family, correct?
Exactly. And I have a new baby, and so I want to be here for that. So that's really great. And Russ also designed my wife's workspace, which she does laser etching and engraving.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. So did you work primarily remotely then, or did Russ have to come out and do some measurements or send people to take care of that part of it, or how did that work for you?
Yeah, initially I just sent CAD drawings, and we were working remotely mostly. And I don't think it was am I right about this, Russ, until we got into construction and really started to get into it, where you kind of came out.
Before we started, we even swung a hammer.
That's right.
Because we had to come out. You were set on that room. We had to talk about it.
That's right.
And so we get in the room together and wave our arms around. What about this? And
yeah,
I came out a few times.
Yeah.
If something that has come out of COVID, we have some of our projects are, this is a wonderful project. Every project is important. It has its own challenges, but some of them are larger scale. I mean, we have a $60 million, 30,000 square foot facility being built from ground up. And there's a whole lot of detail in it. And during COVID, it was difficult to get anybody in to see it. So we started doing Zoom meetings like this, like everyone's doing. And you have to constantly shift back between the different platforms. Let's see, it's this way on Microsoft, it's this way on Zoom. Anyway, we had somebody that would wander around the site with a camera and we'd all be on communicating, talking about this. And it allowed everyone to see what usually only one or two people see. We got to see everyone's thoughts of it. And Fred and I did that quite often. He'd walk around with a camera and we'd do that and talk through the construction and watch things as they happen. So it was
Yeah.
great.
Wonderful.
Hey, if I can for a moment, I just want to introduce you guys to my wife. This is Jess.
She get the baby?
Yeah, so
Hello.
Should I get the baby?
you can. Anyway, so she just popped in.
Very nice. I feel like I just wanted to delve into the design of this at this point. And I know Russ has got a bunch of renderings he'd like to talk about. And at some point in time, I do want to ask you, because Fred, I know that you mix on stages and in various other studios, and then this is going to be kind of a home away from home in a sense,
Yeah.
in your home to work.
Correct.
And what were some of the acoustical there?
There's baby.
Hello.
This is Leo.
Hi, Leo. Adorable.
Yeah, so, oh.
Cute.
Anyway, one of the reasons for doing this. So,
A big reason
Yeah.
I can imagine.
yes, well, that's two big reasons right there. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I'm sorry.
No. This is very pleasant distractions.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you basically in terms of building a room that you could work in, but then take these mixes and have them translate to a larger stage, have them translate, to all the different places that the mixes have to translate to.
Mhm.
Were there specific considerations that were involved, us both of you, in terms of that? That I don't know if now is the right time, or if you want to push it to when you're talking about different, parts of the room or whatever. But I think that's one of the issues that when people are building, rooms at home or custom rooms, they need to make sure that's going to work in a bunch of different environments.
Well, I think that it was the exact reason that Russ got the phone call, because I don't know how to do that, so I needed his help.
Well, maybe we could start with a plan, and you can see basically what Fred's layout of his house was, and we can talk through some of the ideas about how these decisions got made.
Fabulous.
And then maybe if I can share my screen here, I'll start with, let me start with just a quick, this is the model, and we can get into different aspects of the model. I mean, so this is the basic room that we're going to be talking about in here, but there's parts that go to that are around it. So I'm going to start with the model here, Fred's house, and we didn't model the whole house because there's no need to, but we have a front entrance up here. Can you guys see my cursor? Is that working? Okay.
I can see it.
So we got a front entrance in here and a main hallway down here that leads in a kitchen and common room and living area, and then obviously large windows onto a back porch area that's really nice. Master bedroom and suite, and then Jess's space here with a laser cutter that's in this concealed room, and then a workspace. And this is the room here that Fred originally wanted to convert into the studio, down this hallway. And there were a whole host of reasons why that was problematic. And then of course we have a garage over here. So the main thing is to try and create, these were actually 2 bedrooms with a bathroom in between. Okay, 2 guest bedrooms. And so the idea here was to create this workspace, a small bathroom area, a pantry area here, and a place where people could sit, a couple of people could sit. You may have 1 or 2 people in if it's a supervised session or somebody coming in to give approvals or whatever. And there's a walkway down here that goes to the front with its own separate door in here. And we have a concealed door here that closes, where you don't ever have to even be part of the rest of the house unless you're invited into it. So this is, these are rendered images that were created from the model. We didn't populate all the shelves and stuff, but basically this is the front door and the main entry. That Jess's room and the area over there is to the left, and over here to the right is where Fred's room is. So we wanted to try and create, a sense of arrival in here, but we also wanted to cover the entry. So the idea is to put a big piece of artwork here with a barn door that slides open. And then you can slide the barn door open and it reveals a doorway. And then you pull it further and it reveals the back of the racks. And then this is obviously with the door open, standing here at the front door where clients and other people don't come in. They come in through this door back here. And this is a little small hang area in here. This got reconfigured. Instead of front on front seating, there's a table across here. Fred can show you that when we start going through the actuals. We're gonna take you through the actuals, but we have, you know, a small pantry area here like that. Let's see, a light fixture that we both love. Back of the racks, obviously doors can open, you can get to it, but you can shut those down and cover them up so they're not, you know, they're not unsightly to the hallway. So this is in that little small hang area there, the lounge area. There's a bathroom here, you know, sink, counter, and toilet in there. And we have racks here behind sliding glass doors. And then this is the main room in here that we have seating for 3 in the back. And then obviously console, workstation that get rolled and moved around, tie lines over here. You know, a 2, 3, 4 to 1 screen, left, center, right, Atmos, 4 speakers in ceiling, left and right, and a pair of surrounds behind. And we'll show under the hood for that in a minute. So as you move around the room here, you know, Fred and I both are big fans of light and control rooms. Not always do you need it completely closed down. It's nice having some daylight in there if it's controlled. This allows some daylight to come in, but we can shut it down. There are panels here that you can close over that that slide over there, and also give you a more pristine monitoring environment here by absorbing reflected energy that comes off of that wall. There are outside shutters that shut down to completely black this out. So you can make the room completely dark if desired. The goal here too is to hide the surrounds and obviously the mains, they're behind the screen. But that's another pet peeve of mine, is that when people see a speaker, you know, you guys are all audio engineers. You can work through anything. You look at it and you listen to what you're hearing. But you get a client in there or somebody else that's looking at it, they can only see sound is coming from that speaker. They see the speaker and recognize it, then, oh, I know what those sound like. I had a bad experience with those at another place. Well, so it's just best to conceal them and have people thinking about, how does this image and this immersive audio make you feel? So that's the basic goal behind this. A quick look behind the front wall, and we'll get more into that. Fred determined to go with Meyer Bluehorn system, which is a favorite of mine too. There are lots of wonderful speakers and systems out there, but the Bluehorn is an excellent choice for this, and it matches a lot of the stuff in the neighborhood. So it's just basically, this is behind the scene, the wall where the fuzz is removed. This is barium loaded vinyl on here to seal the speakers in. This is absorptive material that goes underneath the barium loaded vinyl, which seals these into the front wall as if they're built in, except they're not mechanically tied to the wall. So you don't get the big swimmy bass coming off the front end. It's much more tight, projects into the room better. And there it is with the speakers gone. A couple of plates in here like that support the speaker. We're backed up on the kitchen, so there's no way to get in there. This is the view from the front. And then that's the image from the seated position. Okay, so then back out in the lounge, this is looking out there, you know, back to that door. That door opens like that. So when it's closed, I mean, it's your own little world back there. then racks behind the glass. This was the original configuration of equipment. It's since changed for them. Of course, I had to have my screen image up there with the, and then back out in the hallway. So I think that's pretty much everything in there that matters.
And
Okay.
may I ask what the surround configuration is? It's Atmos, correct? Or
Yes. Yeah.
yeah. So and then I guess Fred.
It looked like there was a question.
Oh, yeah. Does the speaker walls also work as some sort of base management system or base traps as well?
Well, no, not the wall in the front. The wall in the front is based off of the original THX spec for that. And actually, THX was a client of ours back then. We were working for United Artists. I was the acoustician that developed all the THX cinemas for United Artists back then, and General Cinema too. And THX, I don't know if many people know, they funded United Artists funded the THX project. They're the ones that put the money behind it, and that's why they got all the releases first, 2 weeks before everyone else for Star Wars. At any rate, we helped develop that front wall up there, and there was always a problem where you need to get as much push as you can off that front wall. You have a big cavity behind the speakers, and you get all kinds of weird low frequency anomalies. And by flush mounting them, you get a 2-pi steradian field, so the speakers push into the room. So you have this hard wall directly behind a screen, and sound that comes out of the speaker hits the screen, hits the face of the speaker and that screen wall, and you get short reflections from that distance, and you get smearing in the image, in your audio image. You get notching based on that distance. So by putting fuzz on the front face of that wall, that reduces that and allows the speaker to speak through the screen much more cleanly. So,
Russ, can I go back now to ask you in terms of what is being done acoustically to make the room very translatable to other rooms? And is there any particular trick to that?
Sure. We've got, again, you saw the front wall. We have on the front side walls, typically for, you're trying to get a good clean image out of the center channel and the left and right, and you want to control side reflections into the listening area. In small rooms, you have to be able to control those short reflections. You don't want to make a completely dead room. You want it to have some life and energy to it, or it's hard to translate reverb tails in it. But it needs to translate in a low end. And that's the whole goal for this room, is so that it translates. It breaks my heart a lot of times when we go into rooms that have already been done, and the rooms sound great with the program that's developed in there. But you take it out and listen it somewhere else, and it just doesn't translate. So the goal is to make it translate. So we've got roughly 7 inches of treatments on these side walls in here to deal with low end for the mix area and for that. And we have a trick for the back wall that we've developed over time. This whole back, you're limited acoustically to 3 things. You've got the volume of the space, the shape of the space, and the finishes. That's basically all you have in a room to be able to create this environment. And anytime you bound this space with walls, floor, and a ceiling, you've committed acoustics. You've limited in essence, the decay time in the room, because that's tied to the volume. The shape of the room will only affect hard surfaces in there. It won't get rid of modes. Modes are a function of the volume, and then the finishes. So we've done something to leverage these finishes in the back. So this is removing all the treatments from inside the room. On this back wall, we have, you see, pegboard. It's standard masonite pegboard, no magic. There's fuzz in the cavity and pegboard on the other side, but at low frequencies, at a crossover frequency we predetermined. I don't remember exactly where we calculated for this room that we wanted it, but it was a function of the volume. The low end leaks out of the room. We want it to leak out of the room. That eliminates that dimension from the calculation. So that way it gets rid of one of the primary problematic modes that are in there. And then in the ceiling, of course, we have treatments up here as well, where the speakers are mounted. There's treatments on the ceiling, and in this interstitial space, this is a Eurospan ceiling. It's stretched fabric that is wide span fabric that goes up there. But anyway, so that's how we handled that for the back wall. Again, I don't want to just ramble here. Sorry.
No, it's very interesting. You know, I do want to ask, there's someone posted in here, and I know we're going to save most of the questions till last, but what are the dimensions of the room?
Here, I can tell you real quick. Roughly, we are, if you're interested in the low frequency dimensions in the room, looking at roughly 20 by, it should be, what is it, about 18,
13, I
think.
thought.
14 at the
Yeah.
low end, 14.
Russ, can you clarify for everyone what you mean by low frequency dimensions?
Well, it's the volume of the space. Remember, in the back here, this wall leaks.
Mhm.
So in essence, this room is probably closer to about 30 feet in length. Okay,
Okay,
because the wall leaks at low frequencies.
so
I
in
mean-
other words, the low frequency dimensions larger than the higher frequency or mid-range dimensions, correct? Okay, all right.
Correct.
Yeah, that's interesting.
If that, and I'd be happy to talk more about that if that's something everybody wants to get into.
This is fascinating. Feel free to
And
elaborate if
we
you want.
okay. Obviously, the projector is an issue. Fred went with a not a Balder, a
Loki.
Loki projector up here.
Yeah.
We have a really nice custom housing that was built for this, where the housing drops down and reveals the so you can access the projector. We have a projection port here, and this drops down. So the projector is completely sealed. You know, it's isolated from structure. I'm not showing all the mechanical connections here, but we have a supply and return that runs in and out of the box to for fresh air. Note to everyone out there, do not connect your HVAC system to your projector housing. The temperature shock from cold air hitting it, it's cycling on and off. And then heaven forbid in the winter time, your heat kicks on. That's not what you want running through your projector. The projectors are meant to work with ambient temperature. So just run ambient temperature air through. You have to be mindful of how many CFM cubic feet per minute of exchange you need in the enclosure. But if you've done that, then ambient air works fine to cool it, keep it happy.
And Russ, do you want to go ahead and talk for a couple of minutes about or whatever on the HVAC system that you used?
Sure. I mean, it's a standard split unit. There's a outside condenser, and then a residential style air handler that lives up above in the ceiling that's isolated and suspended on spring and rubber hangers. And then the ductwork, in a small space like this, you don't have a lot of room to run long lengths of duct. And that's typically how we like to, make a room more, or to quiet the air conditioning, to try and have nice, long, linear approach to the diffusers, a nice gentle bend into the diffuser, preferably as straight of an approach as possible. And so we have the unit upstairs where the air is distributed, and the ductworks run with nice gentle bends down into it, into the supply. Returns are all pulled from the front of the room, and supply is in the back. This is a common problem that I've experienced for years, and I've got lots of horror stories over it, where people put HVAC supplies up in the front of the room, and it drops down in front of the speakers, and you get cold air currents in there the air actually hugs the ceiling with the Bernoulli effect, and as it warms slightly, it drops. It falls in front of the speaker, but it falls differentially, so that you'll have a different amount of cold air on your center channel than your left and right channel. And what that does is it messes with the imaging. All of a sudden it comes out and goes back. If you have something pan center, it's less of a problem with a center channel. Obviously, that's why the center channel was developed for film. But if you have a stereo program up there that doesn't have much center channel image, it'll mess your imaging up. The same thing for putting amplifiers underneath the speaker. Big problem. Those air currents, those hot air currents coming up in front of the speakers cause all kinds of havoc with the sound. So typically you want to get these things out of the way. So where we have these located, they didn't make it into this version of the model. I'm sorry. You can see them live when Fred shows you the actual room. Here's we have linear slots on each side right here. So it drops air very gently. It doesn't throw it. It just drops air into the room, low velocity, high volume, low velocity into the room, where it mixes out of the median plane. So we're not dropping it in front of the surrounds or in front of the mains. See, what else can I tell you about it?
I would say also probably obvious, but the unit for this room is completely separate from the rest of the house. It solely deals with just this room. And then I have a separate unit that's completely dedicated to the machine room, so they can be independently controlled. And then I don't have to depend on the rest of the home for that.
And it's easy to split it that way if you put it on UPS. That's a common problem too, and particularly in larger facilities. They go, all our technical gear's on UPS. We got it covered, except the HVAC isn't.
Right.
So your equipment burns up in the racks. You got to go around. You can't keep running unless you have the whole facility on UPS. Then typically you need a generator to be able to cover that kind of load.
Very good. Shall we take a look at, go ahead, sorry.
Just real quickly, these are speaker prisms here. Again, we're trying to hide the speakers. We didn't have a lot of room to work with because the rooms, it's what we had to work with. It's narrow. So we wanted to create something that was sort of semi-object to art. We have a light well up above and a light well in the bottom to kind of make it glow. And it's kind of like, what the heck is that? It's not, just this square box in the wall with some Guilford of Maine fabric over it. It's so you pull that off, and we have these cutouts in here for the speakers that are back in the wall, and this prism just fits around them. Of course, this doesn't show all the acoustical treatment that goes in this prism and other stuff that wasn't part of this model. This was to indicate proof of concept and other things. Okay, so I'm going to back out of this. And we can go back to it if we want.
Shall we take a look at the actual room at this point? And just let me ask Fred, Russ, how far along are you at this point with the completion of the project?
So I was hoping to have the projector in today, but that didn't happen. That'll be tomorrow. We're at the point, we just finished all the woodwork, which took a really, really, really long time. My fault. I was being very particular about it. But we just finished that. So fabric is now in. They estimate another maybe 2 weeks and all the fabric will be done. So right now is actually probably the best time to see it, because we can see everything behind the walls. Everything that Russ is showing you, you can actually see it now, because once it's done, it'll all be covered and you'll never even know that that's back there. So maybe so 2 weeks for fabric completion, I don't know, and then equipment install, plus I'm working, I don't know.
Yeah. So you're getting pretty close then.
Yeah, it's been 1.5 years at this point. Yeah, it's been a really, really long time. And
2 contractors.
Yep, 2 contractors.
Second contractor hit it out of the park though. He's great.
Yeah, he's doing a really, really, really great job. But I am being very, very particular, which is probably slowing the process down a bit. But it's turning
Okay,
out really, really
I got to
great.
tell a story on you about the glass in your old studio.
Yep. Yep.
Fred has been, I love him to death. He cares about quality. He sweats details, not in just his audio work, but in everything. And, you know, some people are perfectionists and they're frustrated by it. He's not. He knows he's that way. He enjoys it and he celebrates it and he lives it. And you always have to pay the price for that. And he's willing to, and he does. And I don't mean just in cost of dollars, it's in time and effort. We were in doing the studio in Nashville that they showed earlier. There is an area of glass that's, I believe, one section. This is from the control room into the studio. There's a section of glass that's 11 feet and another section that is, I think, 5.5 feet. And it's butt glazed glass, 13-inch airspace, and another butt glazed glass following this same pattern. It's difficult to construct and get right. Well, the glass came in first time, part of it was cracked, had to go back. Glass comes in the next time, Fred sits down, he's looking out of his console into the studio, and he sees this wavy line right at your eye level in the glass. He goes, I can't deal with that. I'm going to be looking at people out in the studio and seeing this. So it went back. Then another piece, the third piece, a charm, comes in, and this glass is expensive. I mean, you're talking one of those pieces, probably $4,000, $5,000 for one of the big pieces. It's 3/4 inch sound rated laminated glass, bullet resistance in essence, but mostly sound resistant. Anyway, so the glass comes in. I happen to be there when it was getting installed. It's all in, making sure they clean inside the glass. You know, Fred goes over there and looks at it, and he looks in between the glass with a human hair. No, it was close to that. So I was over looking at the glass, checking it before he had a chance to see too much of it. I wanted to find any problems beforehand. Over there was a little dot about 2 feet off the floor and partway into that 5-foot piece. And it was a fly. There was a fly in there that had gotten squished between the laminates of glass. That's what glass is. Multiple layers of glass with polyvinyl interlayers, and it acts as constrained layer damping. Well, this fly had gotten squished and he was just kind of like this. I mean, wings out, it was perfect. And so I figured, well, we better tell Fred about it now so he doesn't find out. So anyway, he went over, he freaked. You freaked. And you go, I can't believe this. We're going to have to send this back again. And I convinced him because I believed this is really cool. Nobody's got a fly squished in their glass. Nobody's going to see that they're crawling around on the floor. And so we celebrated that. So,
Yep. Yeah. So on this project, we've only been through what, two revisions of glass. But the funny part is when you order glass and when you order this, you know, specifically this, there is something on the glass order that says bug on glass. But what that means is it's a little emblem saying that it's like tempered or whatever. But I did not know that, so
Fred was triggered.
Yeah, right. I didn't order that.
Special order.
Yeah.
There's a fly in my soup.
Exactly. That's very funny.
Anyway,
So
that's
why don't we take a peek inside?
So here's the lounge. So if you remember the renderings, this is that table area. We've got the door and all the equipment. And we did an automated door here, which is really great. So, which opens back into the hallway. I'll take you through here so you can see what the renderings looked like. Are you still able to see this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, here, actually, let me shut the door again.
Fred, it's nice you were able to accommodate more people in the lounge with the new design.
Yeah, no, you know what? That was my wife's suggestion, actually. You know, to put the counter high. So, all right, so here we are. This is this is the hallway that you saw before. And the legs for the S6 sitting in the hallway here. All right, so we got this. And then this is the back of the equipment here. So I'll open this for you. So this is still in process right now, but it's getting close.
Weathered doors, sound rated laminated glass.
Right. So we've got up here cable ladder. You can see where all the wire drops come. And by the way, I have to point out these are custom panels that my wife laser engraved for me. So that's those.
She is a real talent.
Yeah,
And
she's
that was
amazing.
a return vent at the top of the rack.
Yes. Yeah. So you
Return
got
vent.
supply,
There's the supply.
right? And then return back up here. And then we don't have any wire drops yet to the floor, but even in here, you know, the level of detail, I tiled out the whole trough as well.
It's porcelain tile.
Yeah. So, so that's that. Let's see, let's close this. All right. Then back into here. So
I realize I got the grain the wrong way on the rendering for the door.
you'll have to change it. There's my wife again. All right, so we're back in the space again. And okay. Anyway, so back into the lounge here, and I'll back up. There's our light, our artichoke light that we like. Bathroom. And then we have a nice little wet bar, which was kind of important. I try to, I like a comfortable space, and clients, a place to put things and kind of entertain everybody. So we got their coffee machine.
Where's the wood burning pizza oven?
You didn't put that in the rendering, Russ. All right, so this was just done. Now this is where the projector will hang. All right, so you see the struts. And I will note, this is a change that was made later on, but the ceiling here is actually not drywall. This is fabric with acoustical backing behind it. Russ, I don't know if you want to talk about that as to why we chose to do that, but
just a wide span fabric. It looks just like plaster, beautiful color rendering of light, and offers excellent absorption there and tames this pretty ambient space in there. Fred said, I don't know, maybe I might want to do a voiceover or something. So that was enough of an excuse to go ahead and make the extra effort. But it just looks beautiful. You'd think it's just drywall, but it's not. The space is, you've heard Fred talking on the mic, on the computer, and then also through his ear pods. The room's very well tamed from that.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. And you can see that gap up there where a lot of the ductwork is and everything, but this is open as well for what Russ was talking about for the leaky wall, which I can actually show you. Yes.
There's a recommendation can you switch to landscape mode on your camera?
Yes.
Yep.
Sorry, we talked about that. There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Let's see. Okay, I can get back here again. And there's Jess again.
And is that stainless steel on the sidings of the door?
This right here?
Yeah.
This is it's like anodized,
It's anodized aluminum.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And you can see, if I open this, you can see there's something just broke up there. Okay, that's not good. So we won't close that again.
And Russ, just to clarify while we're holding on here, the casing for there's absolutely no sound leakage around the projector unit, then, correct?
Well, it's a projector housing.
Mm.
There's a custom projector housing that is getting suspended from those 4 unistruts.
Wasn't clear how sealed off it was.
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
This is a housing. It's a housing and the projector lives inside of it.
Okay.
Okay. So here, let me see if this works. Let me give you a little X-ray here. So
Oh, wow.
there's the projector inside this housing. And this is the exhaust, because this projector exhausts from the back and the intake is on this side. You know, it's a Barco.
Mhm.
And so the intake supply is there and passes through into this part of it, into the intake, pulling it across the particularly heated elements of the projector, the light unit, the lasers.
Interesting.
By the way, I'm back, guys.
Great.
Okay.
Back to here. I will switch again so you can see the full length of this. This is basically the machine room. Back to this, and this is the, Russ, you may want to talk about this door, but here, let me. So this is the door to the stage.
Oh, right. This is a custom door. It's a barn door. And again, we're looking to leak. We're trying to control a little bit of energy coming out of there so people aren't, you know, pounded out in the entry area. But this is an acoustical wood. It was a 9 wood that we used for this. And it has a amazingly high absorption coefficient. And again, this leaks sound through it as well. So, which is intentional. It reduces the energy coming through about, I don't know, about 20, 25 dB. That's about it. And at low end, again, it's transparent virtually. So
there you go.
But it gives them visual closure. You know, you've got westerly sun setting behind him, behind Fred right now, coming through that seating area. And the last thing you want is that coming here washing out your screen. So it's as much for a light lock as anything else.
So there you go. And then this is back through.
May I ask a quick question to both of you?
Yes.
What is behind the speakers in the front to control absorption into the kitchen?
Well, it's just a buildup of drywall. There's a secondary, there's the existing wall that the kitchen is built off of. We came inside that wall. We removed the drywall on the inside wall cavity, laminated new pieces of sheetrock inside the wall cavity, inside the studs, in between the studs, added more insulation back in. Believe it was a 1-inch airspace we had, another stud bay, 2x4 stud bay, and I believe it was 3 layers of engineered drywall on it. The problem is you've got a common slab here. To try and jackhammer out this slab and put in a floating slab is really problematic. And building it up it adds significant cost at little benefit because we're in a timber frame house. And the goal is always to have balanced construction. So you're putting your money where you can see it, feel it, touch it, and enjoy it, as opposed to taking heroic measures on one thing. It's like having a Volkswagen Bug and sticking this $80 gas additive, expecting that it's going to run 250 miles an hour at the top end. It's not going to happen. So it's balanced construction. Since it is on a common slab, that means that everything is, it means that you're limited for your transmission loss between any partition to an STC class of about 65. So at the low end in particularly, that's where your limit is. So you want to build your walls up so you're getting rid of most of the mid base and the extreme low end through mass. And that's the best you can do. And then you're limited by the the common slab. That's the return up there that returns from front of the room.
Yeah.
Pulls air around
Okay.
gaps that are up there at the front. So
And you were asking about HVAC.
there's the supply, one supply on one
You have
side.
two of them, one on each side. And you can see how wide that is and the supply coming into it up here.
Yeah, the plenum drops
see it.
straight down and then feeds the side of that final fixture plenum that's there, and then a grate goes across it. For anybody else doing HVAC trying to reduce the noise, never use face dampers. All the balancing and for dampers needs to be at least 10 duct diameters upstream from that. Face dampers create tremendous amounts of noise. Even when they're wide open, they create noise. And you want to select the grills for these things so they have an NC value at least 5 points below your target NC for the room. So, and we should be in this room noise-wise, background noise-wise, should be right down there around the threshold of hearing.
Wow.
I'd argue it'll probably be one of the quietest rooms in the city. So, and again,
A lot of
allows you
work
to
done
work
there.
at lower levels and be able to have full dynamic range, hear those fades, hear that inner detailing, hear the distortion in the original tracks, be able to tell the difference between different elements. You're trying to compare one element from another, which one's best. It allows you to hear back into that.
Right.
So
And I'll show you this too. You can kind of see in the window detail. You can't see outside right now, it's dark, but you've got two pieces of glass here, one on the exterior, one on the interior. And there is a seam between it where the separation from the exterior structure and the interior structure is.
completely.
So these are,
decoupled.
yeah.
Tap on the
And-
glass again, Fred. So you can hear it's very inert. That's 3/4 inch sound rated laminated glass.
Yep.
There's no ringing and that's the problem with large surfaces, drywall or glass, if it's not internally damped, is it stores low frequency energy and then burps it back into the room a little later in time. And that's where you get a lot of bass, but it's all swimmy and lacks definition for
Right.
you trying to troubleshoot why your low frequency doesn't reference in your rooms.
Yes, that glass is very heavy. I saw that comment come. Yes.
So just as a general philosophy, you need a lot of mass to control a low frequency response, correct?
Yes. I saw something asked about the air return behind the screen, leading to dust buildup on the screen. That's absolutely a problem. That again, that airflow that's up there, it's not drawing it through the screen, it's drawing it through a slot that's in front of the screen. So there's no air being pulled through the screen at all. That's a common problem too you have with when the fabric isn't installed properly and the treatments aren't done right, where you'll see, a studio that's been around for 2 or 3 years, and you see these gray lines around all the stretched fabric places where it comes in, where it's drawing dirt from the room through there. So anyway. Oh, that's a nice
Okay.
finger.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading one of the comments, something about leakage. What was that? So,
Oh, it was will lead to dust buildup on the screen. Okay, let's see. Oh, how
Greased
does it sound
air.
like leakage to the ceiling?
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
Oh,
we
well,
did a lot
okay.
of work up there
So,
too.
yeah, that is, it's on resilient clips, and there's a layer of plywood, 3/4 inch plywood, and 2 layers of engineered drywall that are in there, again, for balanced transmission loss. And the beauty of putting a layer of plywood up is that means you can screw in anywhere into that ceiling and attach framing, and you're not going to pull it through the drywall. So there's a cap ceiling, and that cap ceiling is resting on the inner walls. It does not touch the, I'm sorry, there are no clips. It does not, that's in the other room.
Yeah.
It's a cap ceiling that's resting on the inner walls. So you have walls resting on the floor. Then you have joists that run across, independent, that don't touch anything in the house or the framing above, and then that layer is below. So there's no mechanical tie to the rest of the house.
Hmm. And there's no issue in terms
Good
of
question.
weight?
Well,
In
yeah,
terms of
You have
the
to
walls are
calculate
supporting the
that.
weight of the ceiling, basically, correct?
correct,
Okay.
correct. And
Yeah.
that's where you get into trouble with existing construction. You go in and you start attaching a really heavy ceiling to your existing structure, and now you're popping tape joints, screws are popping out of the drywall and other parts of the house, and you're putting what probably you're exceeding the safety rating of what your house will support. And in a seismic area like you're in, that is serious implications. You wind up with that whole ceiling on top of you.
Mhm.
Not only that, but it starts pulling the joists down from the roof. It deflects the roof. You'll get leaks. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that. So typically in existing construction, particularly in wood frame, you just want to avoid the existing structure altogether.
Mhm. A room within a
But
room.
we removed the drywall up there, so the studs are staggered. So the joists that are there for the actual roof that are separate from the joists staggered in between for this inner ceiling, this inner cap ceiling. So we pushed them up as far as we can to maximize the height in there. Somebody asked earlier what the height, the best height is. I mean, 18 feet is where I'd like to start.
Yeah, it was funny.
But-
I told Russ in the beginning, I'm like, oh, we're good. We got 12-foot ceilings in here. He goes, that's not enough.
Yeah,
We're ultimately down to 9 feet by the time it's all set.
yeah. But that worked fine with the ratios and
Yeah.
we have enough treatment and trapping up there where it'll work. And dimensionally, it works for the size of the room. You don't want a real tall ceiling with, other dimensions. The room starts feeling creepy. That's important too, is to make sure the room feels right when you're in it.
Mm.
I mean, we've done a lot of work up in New York and up there, you're lucky if you're able just to pass code with 7'6". That's code minimum. And we've had ceilings like that. There's a real problem there. You have a ceiling that low and you put your speaker about where you want it, particularly the low end, the woofer, and you wind up putting the woofer almost exactly between the ceiling and the floor. That's where it winds up falling. And now think about that. Right at that crossover notch is right there where that dimension is. You'll get a suck out that's, 60, 70 dB and it's never coming back. So ask me sometime how I know.
How do you know, Russ?
Well, that's what makes me an expert.
Exactly.
Actually, somebody else made this mistake and I found it. So I always prefer to find somebody else's mistakes than my own, but I'm happy to find my mistakes. That's the thing I love about this. It's just like audio engineering. I've owned 3 studios too. I worked as an engineer. I worked as a musician, the rest of that. And now I get to build people's studios. The studio of my dreams was somebody else's money. But the thing is, when you're doing this, you're always learning something new. There's always something new. And that's the fun thing about mixing and engineering and the rest of that, is that it's easy to learn, but it takes a lifetime to master. And that rat cunning that you develop over years really pays off in building a predictable result, coming up with a good product, engineered product for your clients, all of that's. And then of course it's about the tools, and Fred wanted good tools and hopefully we provided him with that. That
Right.
flooring, you
Yeah.
might be interested. Fred went with porcelain. That's wood grain porcelain. It's
Yes.
wow.
beautiful with that harsh light that's in there now from that light in the back. It doesn't look as
I'll
well.
show you
That's
this.
That's a better.
This is actually very, very interesting, because the rest of our house is actually like real hardwood, but I wanted something that was very durable in here, and so went with this porcelain tile, and I had to find it and had to ship it from Spain and everything. But look at the match.
Wow.
you would never know. This is the last piece of tile. This is hardwood.
Hmm.
So here. Pretty seamless to find the right color and right match.
And something Fred did that we're going to incorporate in all of our future designs. We cut this trough up here.
Yes.
And Fred, why don't you hold for a minute? Let me show them a wire management plan.
Yeah.
These guys would probably be interested in seeing that. Let me find it first. I think this is it. Is that it? I haven't found it yet. Where am I? Where's my wire management plan? Yeah, there it is. Okay. So again, we have a trough here, and then we cut a trough over here in the front of the console area. And we have runs that are blind pulls that run through the slab. So we jackhammer out the slab here and here, put in a vault, put another vault in here, and then ran blind pull conduit to it. So you can pull conduit up here to the front under this. So then in the detail of that, obviously here's your trough, here's the blind pull coming through under the racks. And then here is the trough area up here at the front, and the blind pull comes through. And these trough covers are these guys right here that are just wonderful. You can you can infill this section and this little square here with wood, like you can see, or tile like that. You pop that little cover there, and then you can lift it up and get into it. Are you? Oh, there you go.
Here,
let me
I'm
give
pulling
this
it off.
back to you. Let me give this.
I'm pulling the
back to you
tape
now.
off here so you can see
Yeah.
what's going on.
Yeah.
These are
So, one of the things
There
in
you
these
go.
troughs is they go in, they're concrete. Okay. And, usually we'll acid etch the inside of the concrete with a dilute muriatic acid solution to get rid of the dust and the other stuff in there. And I've got a horror story to tell you about a 3,500 amp electrical drop that happened one time, but that's another story. The
There you
point
go.
is these troughs are raw concrete in there, and Fred tiled them. He put porcelain, the porcelain tile is very thin. And so we tiled the entire inside of it. So, I mean, it's clean. It's very clean, works great.
Hard to do this one-handed, but are you able to see
You're doing
this?
it. You're doing good.
And
It's
may I just clarify, and maybe this is just me, but when you're speaking of porcelain, you're speaking of porcelain as in the stone porcelain?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Well,
acoustically,
it's not stone, it's porcelain. It's like a porcelain cup. It's manufactured.
okay.
Okay.
Very
I'm putting
that's
this down. I haven't gone offline. I'm just putting this down for a second.
No, we
It's
know.
a two-handed operation here.
perfect. Hey, Russ, I did have one other question before we
Sure.
move to that thing, and it is, what is the pegboard that was in the back of the room?
Well,
Here.
I explained that
Back here.
earlier. That is, again, when I was going through the model,
Right.
that is the leaky wall.
So it's just pegboard.
It's just pegboard, but it's got a special hole pattern in it. And it is masonite, it is 1/4 inch, and there is fuzz inside of that. And then the pegboard on the opposite side. And it was set with the depth of it to cross over at a certain frequency that we determined was best based on the volume of the room. So low end passes through there into this other space behind,
Mhm.
into the hang lounge area behind. And so what that does is in essence, you're borrowing the volume of the space behind at low end. So the room at the low end is much bigger than what it appears dimensionally. But this way, dimensionally, we're able to have this make better sense.
And you guys are able to
So-
see this, yes?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Perfectly.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
would like to just take a second and ask for any questions. If anyone else wants to put questions in the chat, we
Yeah.
can.
By the way, I
address
just
them?
really quickly would want to show you this. So you see we've done these access covers, they're removable. This goes down into the trough. There's electrical behind each one of these. It's measured out exactly for where the console will be. So there's no wires run across the floor. Everything will come right up through these troughs. Very clean. Here, let's see if we can even get it in here. But that then comes around here and then back up through here into Jess, and then back into the equipment. So that's how that's run.
And then the speaker runs to the front and to the,
Yep.
and to all the
That's
surround
actually
array.
here.
Yeah, that's all overhead.
Overhead, yeah. So that well, there's 3 drops in the ceiling. You've got this right here. And here's the subs in the ceiling, by the way. Okay. You got them on both sides. So you got 1 wire drop here. You've got another one over here. And another one behind the screen back there. And all this is accessible on cable ladders up in the ceiling, like up above the ceiling in the attic. So, sorry, I know you wanted to get into a question, but I just wanted to show you that real quick.
No, I'm actually waiting for some questions, so feel free
And-
to.
I'm sorry, I missed, maybe I didn't address that before for Crilly. That is a low frequency. It's not really a trap because we're not trying to absorb sound. We're actually just trying to let it vent and flow through that. At low, if you're in your house and you listen to, somebody's going down the street, boom, 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 it just comes right through. That's because, show them the flap patch.
Yeah, I saw somebody ask that,
that's-
so I'm just gonna,
Because that's
I'm gonna
really, it's cool. thing.
carefully put
Anyway,
this
so
back.
low frequency passes through materials based on the mass of the material and the modulus of elasticity. And there's a bunch of other little things, but mostly it's the mass, follows the mass law, 6 dB per octave. And at low frequency, you can have something really massive, but at low end, it's very transparent. You have somebody say, well, I have an STC, whatever. That is like a recipe for giving you a single number for the quality of the transmission loss of a wall. And it's boiled down to a single number. What you want to look at is the spectrum. And that spectrum only goes down to 125 Hertz. And obviously in all of our world, we're living at much, octaves below that. And we're concerned with that. And at those levels, instead of having a wall that'll stop 50, 60 dB, it's maybe 10 or 12 dB. So this in the back is not intended to absorb bass. It's intended to allow it vent through there so that our modal calculations are based on that. And the modal behavior of the room is based on that. Okay, sorry, Fred. So
Yeah.
that little hatch flips under in there and you want to run the cabling out of that. So it's real clean.
Yep. So that's,
And
So
this
let me
particular box is
just
structurally,
ask the question again. How do the cables come through the troughs with the
so
lock doors?
here, so here, I'll show you. Basically, that little trap door flips underneath. There's a piece of Velcro that kind of holds it up, and the wires will then come out of this little hole, right? And then that follows through the trough that's under the floor, goes this way, and then goes back to the machine room back there.
yeah, it's a blind pull. There's conduit where that trough is or the hatch that
Here,
Fred just showed you.
I'll show you the
runs
back
all
of
the way
it.
through.
I'll show you the back of it again. So I'll show you where it actually just comes up if I can here. Let's see. So I don't know if that's too dark, but that's the tubes that come out in the back of the equipment there. Oh yes, my wife just brought me a light. Look at this. She's so amazing. There you go.
And
Makes sense?
I don't have to remind you, Fred, but we got to stuff those tubes on each end.
Yes.
Because if you don't,
Yep.
now hear
Okay.
this.
Yep.
Comes right through the.
So yeah. What was that question? What's the approximate cost? I didn't read the whole question, but I think I got it.
The
How much?
initial budget. It's probably more.
I haven't calculated it yet, and it's not done, so I don't know. And the cost of construction right now is insane, so it's not inexpensive.
I was going to ask you if you were having problems securing enough wood and whatever materials you needed. for this.
Yeah, the wood's been fine, other than the amount of time to get it right. I mean, it's like I've been very, very picky about all the seams. You can see here, like the 45-degree angles, everything like lining up. So that's been taking a long time. What took the longest was this automated door here, which this thing was, I want to say 10 months.
Wow.
So that took the longest, and and you can see the
The
design here.
manufacturer dropped the ball on this.
Right.
We've
And
used this particular door before, and it's worked great, but they really dropped the ball on this.
Yeah, very, very complicated design, and we didn't know how to necessarily build this without the parts and pieces. So it was very difficult. Ultimately, I got frustrated with the installer and I kicked him out and I installed this thing myself.
Wow.
So now I'm certified for these doors.
Excellent. So we had one other question, and this might
Yes.
maybe have been answered somewhat, but since the back walls only reduce the transmission by about 25%, does the low end come back into the room through it?
Well, that's a good question. Now, that's a good question that begs an answer, or that points out a sort of a misunderstanding of how low frequency behaves in a room. We all have imagined this, that a speaker speaks and this wave front goes marching across the room, and like it doesn't. At extreme low frequencies, when you're talking in the modal range, think of it more like a balloon. When you squeeze one end, the other end bulges, and it exchanges energy back and forth. So it's not that energy comes back in, it's never left at low frequencies. It doesn't even see that wall. All it is like a little bit of a resistance to that low end. That's all it is. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah.
It's so low end is one of the hardest. High frequencies are easy. It's like playing ping pong at 1130 feet per second. It's the low end that's the hardest thing to get right, as you all know in your rooms. It's the hardest thing to get right.
Mm-hmm. And
I saw
Russ, we have, go ahead, Fred. Sorry.
I saw the question about Dolby certification.
Yeah.
And Dolby's been involved before any of this was ever, like, even before we started demolition. So they've been involved from the beginning. They know what's going on. Obviously, Russ knows what he's doing, so it's a very easy process there.
And then we had one other question for the back wall with pegs. Can you point to a drawing of how it's constructed to allow base to pass through? Very interested in that.
I don't have any of the sections up, but I'm explaining the theory of how it works. There's a number of ways of doing it. This was done specifically for this condition. I wouldn't say this is what we do every time, because it isn't. We use different kinds of materials to leak sound through, depending on where the crossover is for the volume of the room, where we want that where we want it to start leaking through. So it's not but basically it's pegboard. In this case, it's pegboard, a stud infilled with fuzz, absorptive material, glass fiber, mineral wool, and then in this case, another layer of pegboard on the other side. So that.
And then I think we've got loaded vinyl
vinyl
on the back there too.
That's true. I'm sorry, I don't have the section up, so I'm.
Yeah, there's
Sorry,
loaded vinyl on the back as well.
Great. Any further questions? I think we are good. I want to thank everyone for showing up. Oh, general question for Russ. Is this one of your smaller rooms you've designed, or have you designed smaller?
I have one winner. There was a radio station in Miami, WQBA, and when I first went out to go look at it, we were going to redo the whole station. And they had one room in particular while I was there, they wanted me to look at. So I go in the front door, there's the control room across the room from the receptionist, main control room with a big glass. And there's like this scarring between where the talent is and the doorway. Went over and looked at it. Apparently somebody had walked in and took a shot at the talent. They didn't like what they were playing, I guess. But they had a room in there that they wanted me to treat, see what I could do with it. And I mean, I did what I could, but basically it was a closet. It was about 2.5 to 3 feet wide, had a 2'6" door in it, and it was about 3 feet deep. They had a turntable. You remember the old vertical tracking turntables? Well, they had one of those that you could mount literally sideways on a wall and put the record on it, and then the tone arm would track across. They had a mic on a gooseneck, and the cue speaker was above. A little board, a Shure mixer mounted on the wall, and they were broadcasting for this. So that's the smallest room. I know that's being flipped. You know,
Sure, it
you
sounded
have to
great.
work. You've got to work with what you've got, but there are limitations. I mean, you know, it's the laws of physics, not the suggestions of physics. And I'm proud that we do as many small rooms as we do big. Everyone wants to, what was it like working with Whitney and, you know, Tommy Lee and, you know, these people that are doing things that, you know, they want to know. But small rooms for people in their homes, we're doing them in bedrooms, converted garages. They're a real challenge. And the thing I like is that it impacts people, and trying to provide tools that help them, you know, create their product. To me, it's just so much fun. I really enjoy it. So it's not so much the size of the room. I always tell my clients how it'll work. I give them the hard truth before, not blow smoke up their dress and say, you know, your car will start better, your teeth will be whiter, this will be great. You know, some people make claims that are just ridiculous. But you know, you do the best with what you have. So, and if you know what the
Fantastic.
limitations are going in, you know, like the leaky wall was developed because how do we get more volume out of these rooms?
Mhm.
We cheat.
Mhm.
So that's it.
Very
So-
good. Well, listen, I want to thank you, Russ, and thank you, Fred, so much for doing this
Yeah.
tonight. It's been a wonderful event. And thanks, Eric, for making everything run so smoothly. Did you want to make an announcement regarding the next exciting Sound Advice event we have?
Yes, thank you, Perry. Yeah, for everyone here, our next Sound Advice event is a very exciting one as well. It's a week from this Saturday night. It'll be all about the sound of Metal Gear Solid, covering sound work on all the main Metal Gear Solid titles with a big panel of the sound teams that worked across all those games over many years. It'll be really, really exciting. But Perry, thank you so much for putting this on. Fred and Russ, it was amazing to see your work and for you to talk us through everything. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah,
Thank you
my
all.
pleasure.
And thanks everyone for showing up tonight. Wonderful. So
Great.
Fred, happy mixing, and Russ,
Yep.
again, thanks so much for your incredible insight, and this has
Happy
just been a real
to
treat.
participate.
Wonderful. Well, we'll see you all at the next event, folks.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone.
And with that, good night. Take care.
All right.
Right.
Take care.